Hey guys, Corey with Camel EDV. We're going to do the install video tonight for our high-fender kit on the Ducati Desert X. I've been running a high-fender kit on our bike for about a year, a little shy, maybe 10 months. Quite happy with how it's turned out, so we are confident to bring it to market to you guys. Installation on this kit will take you about an hour. Bleeding brakes when there's an ABS system involved takes a little bit more time, so that might take you a little more than an hour to do it. It is very important to say, if you are not confident in bleeding brakes, if you don't know how to do it, take your bike to a mechanic. As with any aftermarket part on your bike, it is dangerous to install it if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not confident doing it, and especially when we're dealing with brakes. If you get air in the lines, you don't get it all out, you will go to pull your brake lever and you won't have brakes. It's a very dangerous situation. So if you're not 100% confident in your abilities, please take your bike to a mechanic to have this work done. This high-fender kit is the same idea as we do with our Africa Twin, the Yamaha T7 and the Aprilia Touareg. It is the conversion parts, the fork guards and fenders not included with the kit. A few reasons for that. The rate or the price that we can buy fork guards and fenders at is not a whole lot different than what you're going to be able to buy it for at your local dealer. So if we buy it at near retail, we have to mark it up to cover our costs, and then shipping as well makes the box a whole lot bigger when we're sending out parts. So it will be quicker and easier, cheaper for you guys to buy the parts on your own. If we find a supplier that we can get these parts at a good price, we will absolutely add them to the website, but I didn't want to hold up the launch of this kit any longer while we were looking for parts. So we've got the parts list, the fork guards that you need, and the fender. We'll have that information on the website. I'll also put it in the description for this video. So in your kit, you have a fender mounting bracket. This is part of that bracket. There's a large taper lock. So this taper lock goes up into the steering stem on the bike, which locates and holds the fender mounting bracket. And then we have a secondary kind of safety screw, if you will, to make sure that the taper lock doesn't come loose and you don't lose the whole fender. That would be a problem. We have fork guard adapters here. Got some zip ties, fasteners and things, and then we've got a DOT brake line from Galfer. So the first thing you want to do when you get your kit is to unravel your brake line. And lay this out somewhere. You want to get the kinks and stuff out of it, so when you go to install it, you're starting from zero and you're not fighting a bend. This comes to us from Galfer, wadded up in a box. You know, it's curled up to fit in a smaller box, and then when we send it to you, it's going to be in a bag, so this is going to have some bends in it. So just make sure, as long as you can, to try and get this guy straightened out. Just throw it on your kitchen table, whatever. Try and get it to relax. The bracket for this is vertical, so it's got two holes. They come up quite far. Usually on a dirt bike, we've got threaded holes right in the lug here, and then the fork guards come up. So because of this mounting arrangement, we can't use standard dirt bike fork guards, and if we could, they're cheap, they're available everywhere, there's a bunch of options. With the arrangement that we have here, this vertical idea, because of the factory low fender, we're really limited on what we can put on here for fork guards. The best option for fork guards is these guys. So this is KTM part number. This is from a kit that they do to put a high fender on the Norden 901, which comes with a low fender, but it's got the vertical mounting. We do need to adapt the bolt pattern to work, but these are the best options that we can find for our kit. So these are the only fork guards that are going to work on our kit. So you do need to order these from KTM. We'll put the part number, like I said, on the website, on the product page, and in the video description. And we do some slight modifications on these guys to get them to work. So you're going to need a pair of sharp snips, some masking tape, and a marker. So the third mount on here isn't needed. We've been running them with the two holes for, like I said, almost a year with no issues at all. So we're going to cut this guy off, and we're just going to take the masking tape, run it across just so we get a nice straight line. So we're just extending this line here, and then we're going to, I'm going to cut these this way. So then we're just going to follow our tape with our snips. Super sharp, heavy-duty scissors or tin snips are a good option for this. like so. And you can spend as much or as little time as you want cleaning these up, filing, straightening out if you didn't get them 100%. I kind of tweaked that guy a little bit, so I'm just going to turn that corner like so. So I'll do the same thing on the other fork guard. Now there is a metal bracket on your forks that kind of sits in here, so you do need to clearance this a little bit. So in your kit there will be a template. This is super crude just for me for the purposes of this video, because we're doing the video a couple weeks in advance of actually launching the product. So I don't have the cutting templates done at the moment, but it's just going to fit on here like this. You're going to take your marker and trace this guy out. So there will be paperwork in the kit. Just have a look at the paperwork. It will explain what to do with the template when you get it. And again, if we can find a good source for fork guards that are a better fit, we will absolutely use them. And we're going to take our snips and just follow that line. Like so. So this cutaway isn't on a visible part of the fork guard, so you don't need to be super worried about absolutely getting this perfect. Obviously the closer the better. So just going to give us the clearance that we need. And in your kit we have 4 bushings here. And these go on the back side of the fork guards. And I recommend doing these before you start anything else. We're going to give them a little dab of crazy glue. It just helps retain them, and then you don't have to worry about losing them when you take fork guards off and you're not juggling to get them installed initially. So I'm just going to put a couple of dabs here. You don't need to go crazy. I said we just want to retain these guys. So they've got a little raised section here that goes down into the hole. And then just set that aside to dry. So that is the fiddly, annoying part of the installation, but it's done. So everything else is very straightforward. It's just a bolt-on affair at this point. And take your main fender mounting bracket. There are 3 Allen head bolts here. There are 2 16s and a 12. And we've got 3 flat washers. So you can take the supplied blue Loctite in the kit, and you're going to put some Loctite on one of the 16s and on the 12. And grab a flat washer, drop that on. So when you look at your main mounting bracket, we've got 2 holes in the backside, and we've got a hole here. These 2 holes run into each other, so you need to put the 12 mil bolt in this hole. If you put a 16 in here, you're going to run it into that bolt, and you're going to have an issue. You're not going to get things installed properly. So just take the 12, get that guy started, and your 16. And you can snug these up. So when you're done with that, just have a look in this hole here, make sure that this bolt isn't protruding into the threaded hole here that the fender goes to. And then you're going to take the big M10 flathead here, slide that through the bottom of the mounting block with the section of the taper lock, and then the top section. So as the main bolt gets tightened, the taper locks offset, and then they grab the hole. So this is going to slide up into the steering stem. So we've got a brake line retainer clamp here, and it is a tiny little guy. It is a T10. If you don't have a T10, a 2mm Allen will get the job done. It's not great for the head of the bolt, but it will get in there and make it happen. And you can pop this open, just release the brake line. So brake fluid is quite corrosive. You want to keep it off as much as you can. It will destroy the paint on your bike. If it's in contact, it's not good for your hands. So you might want to wear rubber gloves. Grab a 12mm wrench, and we are going to loosen the banjo bolts here and get this crossover brake line off. So this system is currently empty because we just took the high fender off to install the low fender so we could do the install video. You're going to have brake fluid leaking out of here, so you're going to move your container to catch that fluid. You can put rags down to keep it off of whatever you're working on. We're going to reuse the banjo bolts. We are not going to reuse the copper washers. So this side is a double banjo bolt, double wide. This is an ABS sensor line. This line here goes up to your ABS module, your ABS pump, and this is the other side of that crossover. This is a little bit tight in here when you have the front tire on. Getting these banjo bolts out of here is a bit challenging. Getting them back in is even more challenging just because of the tight quarters here. So same thing, it's going to be dripping fluid here on your bike. So again, we're going to use the double banjo, but not the sealing washers. So you can take these guys off and discard. They are a very tight fit on here, just FYI. And we can take your factory crossover line. I like to put this in a plastic bag. Keeps it from collecting dust because it does have the brake fluid on it. It gets quite dirty, and then if you ever want to reuse it, it is a nightmare to clean. And while we're over here, we're going to take the low fender off. So this is a 5mm Allen. And when you take these bolts off, just be aware they do have nylon washers behind them, so try not to lose those. And then we're going to take the fender off and set it aside. So these are the fork guard adapter brackets that are in your kit, and they mount on here. The two new mounting locations go towards the bottom. So blank hole, threaded, threaded. There's no right or left on these. In your kit, there are 10 M6 by 16 bolts. So we're going to take a couple of those, dab Loctite, and use those to retain the adapter brackets. And I'm going to go around to the other side and do the same thing. I'm not going to take the camera with me because it is literally the exact same thing that we just did. Same two bolts, same fastener, or same bracket I should say. So these metal brackets here are the ones that we had to trim the fork guard to fit around. This guy here. We're going to set our new brake line across the back tire. We're going to grab the double banjo bolts for the left side. I'm going to put the sealing washers on it. So I'm going to put the first one here. And we're going to put that one through the line that goes up to the ABS pump. So the original line that's still on here is going to be first. And it might seem like I'm putting this bolt in backwards, but it sits like this, which is the correct orientation. Put another sealing washer, so like that. And then we're going to grab the new brake line, put the banjo bolt or the banjo fitting over the banjo bolt, and another sealing washer. So just make sure you have a look at this arrangement. That's bolt head, sealing washer, banjo fitting, sealing washer, banjo fitting, sealing washer. When you take your OEM stuff out, the washer that is sitting against the caliper might still be there, so just make sure that it isn't before you try and get this arrangement started. So because you have the two brake lines in here and you're dealing with the spokes, and you're dealing with this bracket, it can be a bit of a challenge to get this thing started. Looks like it went pretty good that time. Sometimes it's a bit of a battle. So we're going to put these, we want to make sure that this black bracket here isn't rubbing against the fitting, so just pull it back. You want about 6 mil clearance or so. You want to hold on to the brake line here as you're tightening this up. It's going to have a tendency to rotate with the sealing washer and the bolt. And just make sure you have that clearance there. When you do, we're going to take this plastic clip that holds the ABS line, and we're going to clip it back onto the brake line. Slide that down. And then we can fling this guy over the tire and go to the other side and install it. So same deal, we're going to grab our sealing washers and our banjo bolt. And we're going to grab this. I'm going to figure out the way that we need the bolt going through. Put our sealing washer on here. And our second sealing washer. And we're going to thread this into the caliper. So we've got a brake line keeper here on the back of the triple. I'm going to take it off. And we can set this aside, we're not going to use it again. So we're going to take our fender mounting bracket here with the taper lock, make sure that it's backed off and isn't too tight or you won't be able to get it up into the steering stem. So we're going to insert that. And then we're going to loosely snug that guy up just a hair so it's not moving around. So the location that we just took the cable guide off, we're going to put cable guide of our own on here. So we're going to put it on in this orientation so that the bump, if you're looking at it here, it bumps out towards the camera and is flat. So we take this last M6x16 Allen head with a washer on it and a dab of blue Loctite. Put that through the cable guide and start it into the hole on the back of the triple. We've got a few things stacked in here, so it might be a bit of a challenge to get this guy started. Just obviously make sure you don't cross anything, cross thread. So this is always a bit of a challenge for me to try and shoot video, not block the light, not block the camera, and actually do the work that I need to do. And that could be a bit of a snug fit. You can loosen off the taper lock, which will let all this stuff float a little bit freer, and we can get this whole thing started. Just like that. I'm going to take a ratchet with a 6 mil, and we can snug that taper lock up. And we're going to install our fork guards now. Again, M6x16 large flange with a dab of Loctite. And I'm going to run around and do the same thing on the other side. So then we can come up, we've got the 4 bolts here, and we can install our fender. So the fender we're using is a Polysport UFX SM line. The SM is for Supermoto. They're a shorter fender than a full-size motocross. It's a good fit on this bike. I think it looks great. Comes in a bunch of different colors. So we've got this red adapter plate here, and depending on where you slide this thing back and forth, you get different bolt patterns, so it fits on a bunch of different bikes. But it does have little grooves in here, little teeth, so you want to start a bolt at a time just to make sure that you get this thing started before you engage the teeth, because then you can't slide the adapter. So in your kit you have M6x20 large flange bolts, and then we have some large diameter washers here, and that's what we're going to use to retain the fender. So dab of blue Loctite on those 4, and then we're going to put one in, get it started, and then we're going to move to the next. You don't want to tighten anything down until all 4 of them are in place. So we've got the bolt here with that large washer. I'm going to put it in the front hole here, line it up with the threads on the back. So sometimes this universal fit deal here with the red bracket fits perfectly. The first time everything threads in exactly like it's supposed to, and then other times it's a bit of a battle. I think it's a great looking fender and it's a good choice for this application. The clearance to the rad on this bike is quite tight. So with those all started, we can just take a screwdriver works best because you can spin these in pretty quick. There's no real pressure on them. Just give it a wiggle here and make sure that everything is centered. So we're going to add some P-clamps to the fender to retain the brake lines. So we're going to drill a 1/4 inch hole, 6.4 mil, 6.5, right about here. So we're going to be about 10 millimeters, just kind of on this corner for this fender anyway. So we're going to be about 10 millimeters from the edge up there, and then from this edge back, kind of this direction, you're going to be about 20 millimeters. We're going to put a P-clamp on here in this orientation, so the bump is towards the top, hole's towards the bottom. I'm going to take the last two M6x16 bolts and put these through this hole, and then a nylock and a flat washer. And then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. We're going to do the same location here, which puts us about there. So the bit is on a bit of an angle when you go to drill this. So if you want to drill these holes before you put the fender on, not a terrible idea. If you have a nice sharp bit, you can probably get it without wandering all over. Again, P-clamp, same orientation as before. And the M6x16 bolt. Nylock and flat on the back side. With that done, we can add some zip ties to keep this all nice and tidy. When you're putting zip ties on, you don't want to put them on too tight. You don't want to crush anything. They're just for kind of organizational purposes only. So I'd like to put the last one right where the crossover goes over the fender, down the other side, and just where this one kind of splits off to go up to the clamp on the triple. So you've got all the hard parts bolted on. The only thing left to do is to bleed the brakes. I'm not going to go through brake bleeding in this video. I'll put a link in the description for a good DIY video that will take you through it. If you have any questions, as always, info@camel-adv.com. Thanks for watching.
Ho ho!